Here is a list of the world's worst serial killers by body count, not including medical professionals. Number 10. Abdul Djabar, an Afghan man, was convicted of 65 murders, but his real death toll is believed to be more than 300. He was caught in the act by police trying to murder his 66th victim. He would strangle his victims, all boys or men, with a turban while sexually assaulting them. Djabar was executed by hanging on the 21st of October 1970. Sadly, 2 other people were executed for his crimes before he was caught. Djabar's age at the time of his death is unknown, and his motive is unknown. Number 9. Xinhai, a Chinese man, was convicted of killing 67 people and raping 23 between 1999 and 2003. He would sneak into people's homes at night and murder all the occupants by beating them to death with axes and shovels. He murdered men, women, and children. Prior to his descent into murder, he had spent time in labor camps in 1988 and 1991 for theft, and was sentenced to 5 years in prison for rape in 1996. He was released in 3. Yang was executed by firing squad on the 14th of February 2004. He was 35. When asked why he murdered so many people, he stated, "When I killed people, I had a desire. This inspired me to kill more. I don't care whether they deserve to live or not. It is none of my concern. I have no desire to be part of society. Society is not my concern." Number 8. Hoshang Amini, an Iranian man, was convicted in 1962 for the murder and rape of 67 people. Most of his victims were young men, although there were a few grown men and women. All of his victims were beheaded after death. His crime spree ran between 1954 to 1962. He was executed by hanging in December 1963 at the age of 27. He is the youngest person on this list. Amini is said to be inspired by Asghar the murderer, who is another Iranian serial killer that didn't make it onto this list. His last words were, "Killing me will not solve anything. Go find the cause. You have so many doctors. There are 3,000 people like me in Tehran. I am not afraid." Number 7. Kampatimar Shankariya was an Indian man who was convicted in 1978 for killing 70 people. His killing spree was between 1977 to 1978. He killed all of his victims with a hammer strike to the neck just under the ear. It is believed that the death toll is greater than 70. Shankariya was executed by hanging on the 16th of May 1979 when he was 27 years old. His motive is believed to be pleasure. Number 6. Pedro Rodrigues Filho is the most interesting serial killer on this list, even inspiring a very popular TV series called Dexter. Pedro, a Brazilian man, was convicted of killing 71 people, although his death toll is believed to be greater than 100. Pedro did not murder any innocent people. He killed drug dealers, rapists, and murderers. When he was 16, he murdered every member of a gang that had murdered his pregnant girlfriend. While in prison, he murdered 47 inmates, including his father, who had killed his mother. Despite his many murders, he only spent 34 years in jail as per Brazilian law. Pedro was eventually killed in a drive by shooting on the 5th of March 2023. He was 68. Number 5. Daniel Camargo Barbosa, a Colombian man, was convicted in Ecuador in 1986 for the rape and murder of 72 young girls. He was first convicted in Colombia in 1964 for rape. Upon his release in 1974, he murdered and raped a 9-year-old girl and was sent back to prison. In 1984, he escaped and fled to Ecuador. Between 1984 to 1986, he raped and murdered 72 young girls. He was sentenced to 16 years in jail, as this is the longest jail sentence allowed in Ecuador. In 1994, he was stabbed to death by another inmate, who was the nephew of one of his victims. He was 64 years old. His motive is believed to be because he hated women for not being what he believed they were supposed to be. His death toll is believed to be closer to 300. Number 4. Mikhail Popkov was a Russian police officer who was convicted in 2014 for the murder of 22 women aged between 19 and 50. 2016, he confessed to 59 more. Of those 59, 56 could be proven. He confessed to another 2 murders in 2020 and 3 more in 2023. His total proven count is currently 83, although he has confessed to 86. He was eventually caught because it had been noted that the tire tracks left at several crime scenes belonged to a police car. Authorities conducted DNA tests on all police officers in the area. They had tested 3,000 officers before Popkov's DNA was matched. His murder spree lasted from 1992 to 2010. He was convicted of murder, rape, torture, and necrophilia. He targeted women of questionable character as he believed they should be punished. Popkov will spend the rest of his life in prison. He is currently 61. Popkov has asked to be released to fight in Putin's war against Ukraine. It is unknown if this request has been granted. Number 3. Javed Iqbal, a Pakistani man, was convicted in 1999 for the murder of 100 young boys, aged between 6 and 16. His victims were strangled and their bodies were dissolved in acid. His crime spree was from 1998 to 1999. Iqbal committed these crimes because in the early 1990s, he was implicated in a case of sodomy against a young boy who had beaten him. No formal charges were laid. After this act, his standing in the community had significantly lowered, causing great stress to his mother, who eventually died of a heart attack. After she died, he vowed to get revenge by making 100 mothers cry over the loss of their sons. It is unknown if the boys were sexually assaulted. Iqbal was sentenced to death by strangulation in front of the parents of all of his victims. Then the judge declared that his body would be cut into 100 pieces and dissolved in acid. This punishment was not allowed as Pakistan is part of the Human Rights Commission. Iqbal was found hanging in his cell in 2001. His official cause of death is suicide by hanging, although it was noted he had also been beaten. Number 2. Pedro López, a Colombian man, was convicted of 110 murders. However, his true count is believed to be much closer to 300. In 1969, he was jailed for theft. While in jail, he was raped by his 3 cellmates. He killed all 3, and his original prison sentence was extended by 2 years. He was released in 1978. Once released, he moved to Peru, where he was caught and imprisoned by a local tribe of people after he tried to kidnap a 9-year-old girl. An American missionary bartered for his release. After leaving Peru, he moved to Ecuador, where he was caught by locals trying to kidnap a 12-year-old girl. While in prison, he confessed to hundreds of murders across Peru, Colombia, and Ecuador. However, authorities were only able to find 110 bodies. In Ecuador, the maximum sentence that can be served regardless of the crime is 16 years. When he was released from prison in 1994, he was deported to Colombia to face murder charges, but police were unable to gather enough evidence, so he was instead declared insane and sent to a mental institution. In 1998, he was declared sane and released. He was last seen in 1999. Since 2002, there have been new victims that have been attributed to López. When asked why he killed, he simply stated that his innocence had been taken at 8, so he would take the innocence of others. If he is still alive today, he will be 76 years old. Number 1. Luis Garavito, a Colombian man, was arrested in 1999 for attempted rape. Also in the late 90s, the police had begun uncovering mass burial sites containing the bodies of children, mostly boys. Garavito was quickly suspected of being involved with these mass graves from a pair of glasses and shoes found at one of the grave sites. Prison authorities had the prisoners subjected to mandatory eye testing, as the glasses found at the mass grave had very specific lenses for an eye condition that was rare. They also took DNA from Garavito's cell. The DNA and eye condition were a match. Garavito was charged with the murder of 193 children between 1992 to 1999 and for molesting 200 children from 1980 to 1992. He was sentenced to 1,853 years and 9 days in prison. However, in Colombia, at the time of his sentence, the maximum amount of time a person could serve was 30 years. This sentence was reduced to 22 years, as Garavito helped the police locate more of his victims' bodies. In 2021, Garavito was due to be paroled. However, a judge decided that he could not be released until he had paid a fine to each of the victims' families. By 2023, Garavito was completely blind after suffering eye cancer and leukemia. He died in a prison hospital on the 12th of October 2023 at the age of 66. Thanks for watching. I hope to see you again soon.